A concept we've talked about before on our YouTube channel is height over bore with rifles especially. And that's a concept that I think it's extremely important for you to explore. And it's something that I think most people don't dive into enough. So what is height over bore? Height over bore is the fact that your optic has a distance above the center line of your barrel. And because there's a distance here with the optic and the center line of that bore, at certain distances, and that's a key point of this, certain distances, you're going to have to aim high in order to hit where you want to hit. So I'm going to put 3 rounds on a target that I have downrange. This is a target that I designed in Photoshop specifically for you guys when you first get your AR-15 to put some rounds on paper to see exactly what I'm talking about here. So I have 3 different size circles. I'm not going to compensate. I'm going to put the red dot right in the center of all 3 of these circles. Let's walk down range. I said something that was very important, and I said that it depends on your target size or what an acceptable hit is, and that's going to determine whether or not you have to compensate or whether you should compensate for that height over bore. But no matter what, you should understand it. First shot that I took was on this tiny little circle. So I put the dot right in the center of that TAT logo, and notice how I hit way low. So now if you would compare that distance at 5 yards or whatever, that measurement to the height of this optic over the center line of the bore, you'd notice that they're going to be very close to the same. Now I did the same thing with the medium-sized circle. That was my second shot. I still missed. Now in this scenario, this is what I'm aiming at. This is my acceptable target. So because to me this is my acceptable target, to land a shot in here, I would have to compensate. Now on the 6-inch circle, what you'll notice is even though I aimed in the center, I landed it within the circle. And that's a visual representation where there may be a time and place where speed is going to take priority over compensating with your red dot and making a perfect hit, because I said to myself in my head, this is an acceptable zone to hit in. So as long as my bullet lands within this zone, this is an acceptable hit. But what this tiny circle represents is a very small target where it would be very critical that I land that round as close to or within that circle as possible. What you'll notice on this free printable target is I have 1-inch squares. I have positioned these squares generally in the position where I would have to aim to get a hit closer to the center of the circle. Before I go back and show you aiming on those squares, I do want to mention this all depends on the distance that you're at and what your zero is. So for example, this thing is zeroed, I believe, it's been a while since I've shot it, but at 50 yards. So let's just say for the sake of the argument, your rifle is zeroed at 50 yards. At 50 yards, you would aim dead center and hit dead center. But the distance from 0 yards to 50, that's going to change. So the thing that you should do is get a target like this. Once you get your rifle zeroed with wherever you need it to be zeroed for your particular use, put rounds on a paper target like this, anywhere from 3 yards out to 50, and then go further than that. Figure out what those holdovers are, because it's extremely important, whether you're hunting, just shooting targets, just training, or you have a gun for self-defense. It's extremely important that we understand these concepts. So with that out of the way, now what I'm gonna do is go back to 3-5 yards again. I'm gonna put the red dot perfectly on these squares, and we're gonna show you guys where those rounds are landing. So now I aimed on the square. You'll notice that I landed it within that tiny little circle. Second shot was up on this square, landed it in this tiny little circle here. Third shot, pretty much dead center on the circle. So guys, this is not a complex concept to understand. We have a mechanical offset between the optic and the barrel, and I think a lot of people overthink it or often underthink it. Just understand, depending on the distance and the zero that your rifle is set up at, you will at some distances have to compensate depending on the target size that you are shooting. Guys, if this was helpful to you, please leave a comment down below. If you liked the video and you're on YouTube, I would really appreciate you guys subscribing to our channel. And I definitely would love if you would send a link with this video to another new shooter that you know is getting out They just got an AR-15 or any kind of rifle really, and they're learning this stuff the hard way. Hopefully this video helps you. See you next time.